Yeah, and the fear, how does it show? Well, when somebody is radiant, the fear shows in trying to control the light. And maturity, spiritual maturity, actually shows in trying to become a match to that light. So raising your own frequency, doing your own shadow work, and not to be selfish. Yeah, I want to be clear on this. Spirituality is not selfish. If you're selfish, you're not being spiritual. Spirituality means, how can I die into God? Then God can take over this human and speak to the people. It is praying to God, please God, kill my desires so I can be a Buddha. But are we praying like that? Are we asking God to kill the illusion of us so we can be an avatar of truth? Or are we asking God for nice living conditions? And confusing that for some sort of evolved spiritual state. So when we're trying to see spirituality as a tool, we're still in the ego. When we're looking for tools, we're looking for power. And when we're looking for power, we have no interest in God. We just want to use God to make our ego feel better. And we call that spirituality. When it is in truth, the very core of the dark arts to do that. White magic means the power of miracles. And it means to ask God for death. Kill me and take my place. That is spirituality. Not make my life nice, not control my marriage partner for me, not control the sex and the materials and the attention and the energy sources. It means God remove me because I am the obstruction to miracles. So make me go away, that only the miracles remain. And then you will have no need for control. You will have no need for power because you have died into bliss. To try to use spirituality to fulfill the ego's fears and desires. These are the dark arts. This is black magic. Instead of trying to harness God for the ego desires, we ask God to kill our ego and take its place. So we offering our body up as a vessel for God to take. Don't we see how limited the ego is in its perception? It's only concerned about the next meal, the next orgasm, if it has a roof on top of its head, and if it can control the energy that makes the roof, the sex, and the food happen. That's all it's thinking. The only way the ego understands enlightenment, it's like, oh, I want to get enlightened so I can ensure the sex, the food, and the roof over the head. How many of so-called shamans and priests and spiritual teachers start fucking their students once they have the opportunity to? Why is that happening? Because they have always looked at God as something to steal and control, but never to become. When Yeshua said, I am the way, I am the life, I am the truth, it is because he died into God. There remain no selfishness. But that's not why the ego practices spirituality. The ego wants to harness the divine power and misuse it. Because in order to become a Buddha, you need to die. But it doesn't want to die. It will do everything to avoid death, which means it will do everything to avoid God. And it will call it spiritual practice. But it's the dark arts. It's the dark side of occultism. We're not practicing to gain powers. We are practicing to become worthy of powers. Because for a practitioner of the light, the misuse of divine force is the greatest fear. So our practice is shadow work and discernment. And when yogic ability happens, when miracles happen, they happen. But it's because they happen since God saw that we're ready. So the need for power is the Antichrist. The need to control your romantic partner is the Antichrist. It is the belief in the body. It is the belief in the mind. It is the belief in the limited container. So all the motivations come from instinct and biology. Survival, 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 survival. But since we don't want to know that, because then we would feel ashamed, we create an elaborate spiritual story why we're doing this. I'm just controlling my partner because my partner is unconscious about something. And I need to help my partner to become self-aware. That it's pure survival instinct, I don't want to know, because then I would feel ashamed. And I would have to make corrections. So are we becoming empty so God can fill us up? Or do we want to remain complicated and just steal God's abilities? So we can have sex and safety and attention and money. So it's important then, watch your psychology. How does power show up in our life as an illusion? Mistrust. Trying to monitor the communication that somebody has, for example, with other people. I give an example. I remember this from my own life, from my own mother, who said to me when I was little, Julian, you can tell me anything that's going on in your life. You don't need to have any secrets. I'll always accept you as you are. Said the narcissist, wanting to have maximum amount of information to have maximum amount of influence. Watch the ego that wants to know everything about your partner, about your friends. Why does it want to know everything? What is it afraid of? Why does it want to be a big brother? Why does it want to be its individual version of 1984? Why do you think we're having a society like this? It's a mirror of our own selfishness. We're being controlled because we're trying to control others. So the need for control is the opposition towards God. Trying to control your way into enlightenment is not to go for enlightenment at all. To go for enlightenment is to say to God, let me suffer whatever I need to suffer to understand. Unleash all of your power on me. Break me down. That's not what we're asking for, right? We're asking to be safe, to be fine. We're asking for our months to be paid, our rent to be paid every month, our orgasm to be had. We want others to approve of our appearance because we believe to be the body, because we're nuts. That's not asking for illumination. So if there is a powerful source of energy because someone has let God in, the greedy will be at their feet. In fact, don't believe that enlightened beings don't go through trauma. They do. When I was in India, thousands of people came to me. Can you heal me? Can you heal my husband? Can you heal so-and-so? They never wanted to know what the karmic conditions and reasons were that they had those illnesses. They didn't want to learn. They just wanted to steal the energy that came from the yogi. And then when they didn't get what they wanted, they would call it unloving and cruel and cold, which of course is a projection. They are unloving, cruel, and cold. God is not something to be used. Instead, we ask God to use us. Thy will be done, not my will be done. Thy will be done.